Okay.
Hi, everybody. It's Linda G with our famous Sterling.
Good morning,
How
everybody.
you doing, my friend?
Doing great. Time change. I love this time change rather than the other one. So
You do? You like this one better?
I do. Yeah. Just for whatever reason, it fits better with my work schedule, that kind of a thing, all the things you do. So I like it.
So right now it's 10 a.m., but it's actually 9 a.m. from yesterday.
Yeah, and I think it's probably because I'm always somehow on East Coast time. Go back to New York so often that always, for some reason, my body is aligned to East Coast time. So the closer you push towards it, the better,
Right.
And maybe that happened years ago from, going to Europe a lot and other parts of Asia. And so my body clock's way off. So I think I left Los Angeles time a long time ago. Yeah.
I know it was hard for me and my sister, like when we went to Ireland and France and everything, getting used to that.
Yeah.
And when I was in Scotland, I remember being up all night and then falling asleep in the morning.
Yeah. I remember like in Amsterdam, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. It's still sunny out, so.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's hard to get used to.
Yeah, hard to get used to.
Like my son in Alaska, he loves Alaska. Did a lot of group things up there and that slept out in a tent. I don't know how he did it. Okay, so we've got everybody's questions. Thank you to Dan and to Linda for
absolutely the best team, the best team
ever. Dan really likes working with Linda. Okay, so number one, what are the chances of Putin using chemical warfare in Ukraine?
Well, pretty good, but let me characterize what I mean by that. It looks to me like he's going to try to deploy a chemical weapon, but it's either going to misfire, not go off, or be contained. So I do see him making an effort, but it's like not a successful effort. And it also looks like whatever happens there in terms of contamination gets mitigated by even NATO nations. So there's something here where it gets mitigated, but he's going to try. Yeah.
Now, is that when NATO steps in?
Is that when who?
When NATO finally steps in?
No, I don't think NATO is going to completely step in until he gets real close to the western border. And then that's
which he just did.
Right.
He had a spot right outside of Poland.
He did. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's pushing all those buttons. But they are saying that he's collecting corpse so he can do a false flag saying that the Russians were hit by the Ukraine.
It's all part of the Russian playbook.
Yep. Okay, so number two, now that there are changes on the 1-6 participants, will congressional representatives and senators be implicated? Oh, now that there are charges on the 1-6 participants.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to start to open the floodgate because I've always seen, and I still see now, there'll be a dozen, people in government that are going to be taken down by direct relationship with the 1-6 insurrection. So my guys are still calling up like a dozen, people in Congress.
You've been saying this.
Yeah, and I don't know why they keep telling me a dozen. So it's not like a baker's dozen. It's not
No.
13, it's like 12. So yeah.
That's true. Okay, when will Putin be stopped?
So timing is always a little difficult in these kinds of areas.
Always.
A lot of moving parts. But let me start off by answering the question a little backwards here. I see there's a multitude of effects coming into play. So one of the least of which, or I should say, I think it's going to happen sooner than later, is a lot of his generals starting to stand up against him. So he'll have a lot of inside generals and people in his own cabinet. They're like, wait a minute, now this is getting crazy. Or now the top generals are getting killed in the field. Like now, almost 100 corporations have left Russia, including Apple and McDonald's. The stock market is crashing. At some point, everybody's going to say, wait, this is like not working out the way we thought.
Right.
So the first thing I see is that happening. The second is that a strong response by NATO in a number of areas. So it's going to start to provide a pushback. So I think when the question is, when will he be stopped? I think we got weeks to months here before it's really going to get officially kind of calmed down, but it's because of an aggregation of a lot of things. And also the Russian people, there's going to be an uprising in Russia. So, when you can't buy bread and, you can't do all the things you need to do, the collection of factors are going to bring it down. I bring
I
him down.
think you agreed with me a couple of years ago. I think I told you I saw Putin running from his own people. And you and I both, you acknowledge that, like, when his time comes, it'll be from the inside.
Yeah, and I saw also 45 and Putin on kind of the same decline track. It's almost like day to day, week to week, year to year. As Putin declines, so does 45. So they somehow their lives are intertwined. Yeah.
Well, did you see that? I don't trust him at all, as far as I can throw. That Matthew Cawthorn or something like that.
Yeah.
Gentleman in the wheelchair. He says he wishes he had voted to impeach Donald Trump. Now, where did that come from? He's sliding on the new side. Even Lindsey Graham is acting like he's for justice. So, okay. Will Ukraine get the jets from Poland finally?
Absolutely. So these MiG-29s, but see what's going to happen here is it's going to come from an unlikely source. So it's not going to be publicized before it happens, but it's going to happen, and it's going to happen rather soon. And all of a sudden, it's just they're going to end up in Ukraine, and then people are like, wait, how did it get in Ukraine? How did this happen? So they're going. The MiG-29s are going to end up in Ukraine.
Okay. Well, I could see the United States turning this, because when they were announcing, oh, Poland's got these, and then the United States is like, whoa. They only did that because they don't want Putin to say, this is war. You're helping. So that's what I thought. Like, they can't keep announcing what their plans are, because he's going to, right now he's saying he has the right to bomb anything coming from other nations to help the Ukraine.
Exactly. So like in a perfect world, if the MiG-29s just show up and you don't know how they got there, it's very hard. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to be more of a covert operation the way they get in there. So,
okay. Thank you. Well, the law that threatens to take trans children away from their parents, calling it child abuse and denying them gender affirmation medical care at critical times, be overturned as unconstitutional.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an easy one. But that particular law, I think, is coming out of Texas, is where that LGBTQ law, and that's got a wide reach to it. So it's not just it's education and parenting and medical services, but it'll all eventually be overturned. And I see the Supreme Court getting involved in that too.
I know, so but the Supreme Court, the one that's there now, would probably vote yes.
I still see it getting challenged and overturned.
Okay, cool.
Even with the Supreme Court that's there, yeah.
Well, the judge that the one appeals court just said, no, you can't do that. So, and there's that freedom that parents have the right to decide for their children. So you can't do that with the vaccine and then turn around and say, well, your kid can't be trans. So
yeah, and that's what I'm being shown, is that there's a multi-level legal entanglements if the Supreme Court tries to let it stay. Okay. The tentacles as they go through society are too widespread. So it's not just the one issue, it's how that issue then propagates through all other medical care for children and families. And that's where the Supreme Court says we can't uphold it. So,
okay. What would happen if we instituted a no-fly zone over Ukraine?
Well, it's not going to happen, but it's very easily a direct conflict with Russia. So that's not going to happen. And I think that's widely understood. But I don't ever see that no-fly zone happening right now. Okay. But eventually, when NATO gets involved, we're going to have some part of it.
Well, here's a good question: will we ever abolish daylight savings time in the United States?
No.
No.
Not for years. Eventually, it's going to, within about a 4 to 5 year window, I feel they're going to stop it, because originally it was done for business purposes and farming purposes, right? Agriculture, but now that's not a big factor. The big fight will be, where do you leave it set, on standard time or daylight savings time? So,
will Florida anti-LGBTQ law ever get overturned?
Almost a duplicate of the other one. So yeah, it will. Yeah.
I think they might be in for a new governor, Florida and Texas.
You know, I've always seen that there's going to be another Republican, a little more moderate, getting into Florida rather than Ron.
Okay,
I still seems like that's going to happen. So
okay. Well, Disney's turning on him now, so he's no good for the economy of Florida.
right.
Germany, Europe in general, is at the moment facing massive problems with dependence from Russian energy sources. Will Germany find a way out of the dependence of Russian gas and oil?
They will, but it's going to be more through the help of Saudi Arabia and the Middle East. So that's where it's going to come
Just got
from.
that flash this morning.
And,
I
you know,
see the United States working with Saudis.
Yeah, so it's like sometimes, strangers make odd bedfellows, as they say,
Right.
or enemies make strange bedfellows. But given the fact, I think Germany takes like 45% of the petroleum and energy from Russia, they have to then shift that. So now there's good news and bad news. I think Saudi Arabia and Middle East overall is going to get involved, but it's still going to head towards $300 a barrel. So it's going to be still quite expensive, but they'll have what they need. Yeah.
Well, the United States just now on the news, it's just finally leveling off.
Mhm.
So they're saying good news is it doesn't look right now that it's going to get. Is it $300 a barrel now?
No, it's not now, but I'm saying the oil that comes into Europe and Germany, unfortunately, is going to start to head that level into Europe. Yeah.
Even when I was in Europe, the gas is really high out there.
Yeah, and that's why, of course, diesels were so popular across Europe for a long time because they're better on gas. Gas has always been historically very expensive in Europe. Yeah.
Okay. When ETs finally show themselves to us, will they warn us about other ETs that are not as friendly and should be avoided?
I mean, yes, and they already have. So,
And they have already shown themselves to us.
Yeah, they already have. And, one of the more aggressive groups where they're still controllable are the reptilians. They tend to have, I'm going to say they tend to have attitude. So, and they get to be a little more aggressive, but there's so many other species that keep them in check that they're not going to get out of control. So we already know about them. And these other species are a little more aggressive. Yeah.
Do lower energy spirits attempt to bring us down when we move towards enlightenment? And do they try to bring us down when we are more vulnerable due to illness, substance abuse, mental strain?
That's kind of a two-part question there.
Yeah.
The first part of it is just because you're trying to raise your vibration doesn't mean they're attracted to you to try to bring you down. That's the first part of the question, because like attracts like. But then to follow on the last part of that question, yes, if you're energetically in depression or anxiety or have got some issues in that area and you kind of lower vibrationally, you will attract lower level energy. So hope that makes sense.
Yeah,
the lower level energy.
I call them attachments. Sometimes people get an attachment and they can't get their head out of that. Ugly.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Will there be nuclear pollution from the nuclear plants in Chernobyl in Ukraine due to Russia's interference or negligence managing them?
And then they call nuclear pollution was the question, right? Yeah. I mean, there already is, and it's been ongoing for years in the air and the soil and all that. So that'll continue on, but it's not going to reach a level that'll be overly harmful than what we've seen just due to the ET involvement. So there's a lot of ETs on site right now.
I watched a real interesting show with Dr. Green, the fifth dimension guy. Anyway, he said that they are very attached to our biosphere. The ETs are keeping a very close eye, and they wouldn't allow destruction with nukes.
Yeah, and they've been involved in Chernobyl for decades, with all the problems there. Yes. So that's why it never really, got to an extent. It affected a lot of Europe, sure, for a while, but it's being controlled. So
okay, did they also work on the Japan incident?
They absolutely did.
Wow.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, would the Don't Say Gay bill become Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' Waterloo that will become his defeat?
Not that particular event, but what I see for Ron, entertainment purposes only, is some real legal challenges to how campaign funding got done and how money got moved around. because I see him in brawl, kind of, there's a lot of legal things that come up around him, and he gets dragged down by all the court proceedings. So it's
Okay.
not this particular LGBTQ issue,
Right.
but it's others. Yeah.
Oh, God, when he walked in the door and yelled at those young kids because they had their mask on,
Mhm.
barked at them, I just thought, dude, you just lost about 10, 50, 150,000 voters right there.
Exactly.
Anonymous has been hacking into Russia. Will they share this information and the world with the world? Also, does Anonymous have information on US politicians, and will it be shared?
Well, yes, and yes. A couple of elements of that question. They've done extensive hacking already across the world. So
Yeah.
not just on Russia and Europe and US, but by summer, they're going to release a lot of this information on Russia and also the US, but the US is more about how Russia was connected financially.
Okay.
So all this is going to get released, and my team's telling me it's right around summer. That's June, July kind of time.
And I also feel Merrick Garland with the DOJ is going to really find some connections.
He will. And the anonymous information from the anonymous team will be served up like on a silver platter. So it'll be a lot of easy information to absorb and easy information to track down and find out where it all came from.
Okay. Will Putin really use nuclear warheads, or is he bluffing?
I only see one instance where he's going to try.
Okay.
And so whether this is like a failed attempt, or it actually the missile gets off and it doesn't fire, or is taken out of the sky, but they're telling me that there's like one attempt, and
That's so interesting.
Yeah, that'll be all the world needs to say, okay, now you cross the line.
Boom. I saw in my dream, you might have heard of it. Have you heard of it? A nuke going off. I heard the sirens, everybody, what are you going to do? You can't go anywhere. But anyway, and then I saw it exploding in the sky, and it made this huge blast, and I was like, whoa. And then I heard all clear, all clear. And then in that moment, I didn't hear anything, but I knew that Russia was being demolished. I knew in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And China's not going to be on his side. Right. China knows what side they're. If they want to exist with being if they come through by telling Russia, nah, we're not going to get involved, then China will also be a hero. I don't see China helping Russia to nuke us. I don't see that at all.
No, I don't see that at all. But I see that President Xi believes that he has Putin under his thumb. Okay. So he might act friendly with Putin, but what I see happening is he really feels like he has the one up on him, and he has him under his control. So yeah, he doesn't trust Putin. Okay, future of our pollinator friends, pesticides and fertilizers that are harmful to bees and other pollinators have been approved for market use once again. What? How does the future look for bees? You would think Biden would have stopped that. And is this a question about pesticides or
about our bees and stuff with all this pesticides come? They said it's been approved. Pesticides on fertilizers has been approved.
Well, what I get on that, and this relates to a lot of kind of the animal kingdom, but let's look at bees for a second, is that there's some pretty major scientific breakthroughs over the next 3 to 5 years here, even in pesticides. But these are like pesticides will not only not be harmful to bees, but also like accelerate their growth. Okay, so good. Something about understanding what the right biological component is to then accelerate the growth of bees, but not harm them. So I see that in just a few short years here, this is all going to happen. So regardless of where it is today, it's going to get turned around. Good.
That's good news. Okay. There's a lot of violence and crime in New York City. When do your spirit guides see an end to this?
It has been for a lot of years, obviously. What I'm being told right now is it's actually a technology component that's going to help turn that around, but it's facial recognition. So it's using artificial intelligence for facial recognition, but then tracking with a huge back-end system. So now you can get to the person quickly. So not only now identify who the person was, the perpetrator in the crowd, but now you know they live at 123 Elm Street and get over to them quickly. So that I'm just being told the big trigger component in 2 years here will be the widespread implementation of facial recognition technology. So you can pick anybody out of a crowd. Now, a lot of people will fight that due to, privacy concerns. But, look, there's a balance, right? There's a balance. If you want to everybody's got to give a little to get a little sometimes. So,
Right. Yeah. And it'll definitely, as long as you're not doing anything wrong, I don't worry about things as long as I'm not, committing crimes. So,
not a big concern. Yeah.
yeah. Since Putin is using his free will to destroy and murder innocent people, is it also the free will of those killed that they should die this way?
No, not at all. Because, if you look at anybody's exit point, that's not a free will decision necessarily, exit point. Now, it's true that towards the end of life, we all have a little bit of a buffer zone. I found with a lot of people that I read, where you have an exit point. You could try to go a little faster than the exit point or a little later if you hold on for family. But in terms of working with somebody else like Putin, that free will doesn't create a different exit point. So it's all part of the blueprint they're telling me for your life path. Yeah.
When I was crying and praying for the people who were being killed, my guide said that basically this is as written. This is a part of something they had agreed to, which sounds crazy, but
it is. And I see that. I learned lessons over the years in looking at, Holocaust victims and victims of 9/11. And a lot of those, they became very large scale angelic groups that came back right away to help the earth. So I always tell people it's above my pay grade, to say why these things are put in, why that's the way they are. But that's what they're telling me. And I just got a cold chill just now when I said that. So.
okay. All right. Since ETs have the capabilities of shape-shifting, apparently, are they presenting themselves as either military or nuclear specialists or workers guarding the nuclear reactors?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. And the beauty is they can go in and out of dimensions very, very easy. So either they want to be seen, they're a worker. 5 minutes later, where that person go, they may still be around, but now they stepped into the other dimension.
Okay.
So
great.
absolutely, yeah.
Do you see anything coming up this next week?
I do. We spent a lot of time on this particular show regarding, the Ukraine and Russia, but I still see some very aggressive, creative attempts to get the MiG-29s into the Ukraine. We talked about that. I see a lot of aggressive discussions around peace talks around the world. Doesn't mean we're going to have the perfect peace plan, but I see a lot of nations getting together, including, all over Europe and other parts of the world, to say, what components can we put together to give Putin an exit off ramp? What can we do here so we can save face? So I see a lot of aggressive discussions, which you're going to see publicized. And I do see a lot of now military aid from the world going into Ukraine. So not just the MiG-29s, but they're telling me a lot of not just the US, but a lot of other nations, backdoor feeding in rocket launchers and things.
So
that they're
you
gonna
don't
need.
see Putin actually taking over the Ukraine?
No, I see him coexisting in the Ukraine for quite a while till that turnaround happens. My guys are saying there'll be a turnaround point where Putin can't go any farther. The world's against him. Now he needs an exit off ramp, and that's where the
Because
world
he's talking about attacking Poland next. I mean, what an idiot.
Yeah, well, that's where it's all going to turn. It's going to turn before then, but he's headed. He's not going to succeed.
Okay, good. And I thought even if he took Ukraine, he wouldn't hold on to it very long.
No, they already proved that you'd have to have millions of Russians in there to try to, control Ukraine.
They showed 5 Russian military men walking through a gate, and this old couple came out screaming and yelling, and they were screaming and yelling. The one guy shot to the ground, and I don't know what they were saying in Russian, but next thing you know, the guys are turning around and they're pushing them out the gate.
Yep, absolutely.
You can't shoot old people that look like your family. So do you have anything your guides want to share?
They do. and I got this a couple of times this week, but understand that we're going to go through a full circle moment here on Earth. So right now, people might think we're in the depths of despair, and I wouldn't even argue against that. But the Earth's going to go through a full circle moment where now we're going to bring the Earth completely back together in a way that it hasn't been. So this is this event we're going through, and world wars can do that. I'm not saying we're going to have a world war, but these kinds of world events will pull it together. So my guides are saying, understand, we're going to go through a full circle event here from the depths of despair to the heights of humanity and goodwill and love and unification for the world. So
Right. And I even see in China taking it down a couple of notches.
they will, because they'll see what happened with Russia, and they'll say,
Yeah.
well, we understand what the costs are, the human costs, the economic costs, not worth it.
Not worth it. All right, my friend. Well, thank you.
And one quick note, people always ask how to reach
yes.
me. So it's very easy, sterlingpsychicmedium.com, and just look for the book a session tab. So,
And it'll also be posted below, but some people can't see it because
if they're on Apple, using Apple TV or other streaming boxes, they can't see the comments. So,
all right.
All right.
Thank you, sweetie. So
Thank you.
say
All the
hi to
best.
your wife, and
I
I'll
will.
talk to you soon.
Will do.
All right, honey. Bye, everybody.